Hi, beautiful souls. It's Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. I know a lot of you really like deck collection type videos, so I am in the process of putting all of my decks into categories so I can shoot my entire collection. And this has proven to be quite a challenge because, of course, different decks fit into multiple categories. You can see the Crow Tarot over there on the left, of course, would also fit into an animal deck collection. So you may briefly see some of these decks multiple times. But what I've got for you here today are collage style decks. And to tell you the truth, I was quite surprised how many of these I had in my collection. I thought most of my decks are original artwork, but I'm really kind of intrigued, shall I say, with the level of originality, the level of creativity that goes into the creation of collage type deck. And if we look at the Bubba Studios decks, for example, we have a whole costume department that films and shoots live people in costumes that are created with a tremendous amount of labor, love, of course, creativity and resourcefulness. And then these are placed in various backdrops that are either created for the particular scene, or some of them, of course, are in City of Prague, just comes to mind because I know a lot of their shoots have been done there. So it's just really, really fascinating. And then down here on the bottom, we have a deck that's been around forever, which has a really beautiful different kinds of techniques of collage work. The deck I work most frequently with in this pile here is the textured, and we'll have a look at that one as well too. And then the category that kind of crosses this one are the more photorealistic collage style decks. So what comes to mind is the Thelema Tarot, for example, and that style of deck. So I'm going to keep those in a separate category. And when it comes to a deck like the Housewives Tarot, or their other deck, which is the Zombie, that's really kind of difficult to know where to place those. If we're going to be sticklers for what category they fall in. But anyway, let's have a look at some of the cards, and I'll show you a few of my favorite cards from each of these decks. The Enchanted Tarot by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber came out in 1990. This is the 25th anniversary edition that comes in a large box, and these are really large cards, 16 centimeters by over 8 centimeters. Lovely cards if you're teaching or if you're doing a party. The backs are just absolutely stunning. Reversible, of course. The thing I like about this deck is the fabric art. I can imagine some of these cards as tapestries, quilts hanging on somebody's wall. The detail is just really, really stunning. The borders are large, but I think they really do enhance the artwork. I'm just going to turn these over because I put a few of my favorites right on the top. And so you can see the major cards have a purple border, and there are different colors for the different suits. You could also place this deck very much in a fairy tale or, an otherworldly kind of category. And the layers of the fabric, the layers of the different media and materials that have been used are absolutely stunning. I love the Hermit card. It's almost like you can, the path is very intentional. And you can see that the Hermit is moving, or I feel that the Hermit is moving slowly and with great intention. This reminds me of an oracle deck that I have where we have, this is probably the first one you've seen where you've got a three-dimensional object in the image as well too, and it's absolutely stunning. The mask they chose for that one. So here's a wands card. So the wands have a gold border. And then the swords have a blue border. This Six of Swords has so much passion. And I think that's one of the things I feel in this deck is the passion that is exhibited in every single suit. And you can see like the texture in the water, the ocean is just really, really stunning. Here's the moon card, which to me is a little gentle, a little soft for a moon card. You know, moon cards are to me more about revealing challenging situations, the things that are coming just about ready to come to the surface that perhaps we haven't wanted to look at. But this card has definitely a lighter perception. There's the sun, and the pentacles have this gorgeous olive green border. And then I'll show you the hearts. Isn't that a great Four of Swords? And I know quite a few Four of Swords. You see a figure sitting in meditation, but this was done a long time ago on this deck here. And let's just go through here. So pink. So pink is going to be the suit of hearts. So the cups are pink. And there you have two cup cards there. So yeah, so if you are a lover of fabric art and you like that kind of I don't know, like Oracle of Delphi or something like that. I have a beautiful tarot deck called the Beautiful Rebellion Tarot, and it has that kind of historical flavor to it as well too. So yeah, so that's the Enchanted Tarot by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. Here's a more familiar deck, the Moonchild Tarot by Danielle Noel, independently produced in 2018. This deck is actually a very similar color to the Enchanted Tarot. So very soft palette, very soft light. Love this Eight of Swords, how the woman is in the pink veil. Some of these cards are very, very cleverly done. And you'll also see a tremendous use of fabric art in Danielle's work as well, too. There's lots of nature in the background. And you will see some three-dimensional objects as well pulled into the collage. Very energetic Ace of Wands. And here's another excellent Hermit card. So the Hermit in this one is walking, I believe, away from us. So she's moving through that portal with strength. I just feel the strength of her step, of her pace. Love that one. Here's an example of a card where you can see the different fabric and different materials that she's layered on top of the photo. There's some buttons here. And for the most part, the faces she's chosen are really well done. Some of them I don't care for, but I'm showing you here today the cards that I really do enjoy. And the Hanged Man, I think, is brilliant. Reminds me very much of an image you might see in Peter Pan or something like that. And just like the Enchanted Tarot in the Four of Swords, we have a figure in meditation. And this deck, too, another strong feature is its diversity. So you do see some same-sex relationships, various body types, and so forth. And here we have a young child, or a young woman, I'll say, in the Five of Swords. So yeah, so that is the Moonchild by Danielle Noel. And then we have the Good Tarot, Hay House 2018 by Colette Baron-Reid, and beautiful digital collage art by Jena, DellaGrottaglia. And I wanted to feature at least one of the decks that includes Jena's work because it is really stunning. Love this transformation card. So this is the Death card. This deck does switch up some of the titles. Very similar in color to the previous two decks. So if you're looking for softer decks that lean more to the feminine kind of frequency, watery energy, you get lots of planets and moons and things in this deck as well too. Very similar Hangman to the previous one. This Eight of Water is really interesting because it pulls in, for me, a lot of different questions, and also kind of brings up energy of a Six of Swords. And then we have the coins in the foreground as well too. So lots of questions which I like. I like it when cards, you know, make me think. Another clever Hermit card. And here is the Six of Swords, the Six of Air. Flying through the air with the birds underneath. There's your King of Earth. This is the Dreamkeepers Tarot, independently published by Liz Huston in 2018. So you can see the backs are not reversible. This is a standard size tarot deck. And again, very similar color palette, especially to the Good Tarot. This almost looks like one of the cards in the Good Tarot. Beautiful Sun card, though it could easily be mistaken for a Moon card. And with that soft palette of color, that definite watery image, this is another deck that can be used for working with shadow, which is one of the strengths of a Moon deck. Ace of Swords. So we have women, I believe women in all of the aces. Reminds me in a strange kind of way of the Anna Kay. Just with that thought. Of course, the artwork is completely different. This artwork is, again, multimedia collage. Clever use of a mask here for the Queen of Wands. So we have that opportunity to bring in lots of questions. And look at that light behind her. That's really great. And here's a veil. Beautiful. And this energy, watery energy behind the Hanged Woman here is quite stunning. Nine of Cups. And here's another mask. So quite an array of decks out there to really tap into that, you know, those really difficult questions. Yet the decks appear quite soft and quite approachable. So any of these decks I think work really well if you have a querent asking really hard questions, but you don't want to come at them with a more challenging shadow deck. I find this twisted fabric here on this bird that the children are floating on kind of creepy. But you really get that quandary of Six of Cups, you know, which way is the card going? Is this nostalgia or is this kind of creepy clinging to the past? And there's another ace with a woman. And there's your Nine of Pentacles. So yeah, strong feminine energy, very, very soft palette. Okay, this is a first. I've never shown a Doreen Virtue deck in any of my videos on my YouTube channel, mainly because I don't use them anymore. I have a few still in my collection to offer to clients or students who are really having a difficult time with a basic Rider-Waite deck or a Rider-Waite Smith clone. And so I have these decks that I can kind of offer that have much more information on each of the cards. This one is Doreen Virtue Radleigh Valentine with the collage artwork by Howard David Johnson. That's why it's in this particular video, because it is a digital collage deck. Here's your Nine of Winter. And you can see you have these more extensive descriptions here, which is the case on many of these tarot decks by Valentine and Virtue. Unfounded fear, focusing on worst case scenarios, allowing worry to grow out of proportion to the problem. So this is a lot easier to visually for people who have a hard time actually, you know, dealing with the swords. So for the minors, we have seasons instead of, so here we have swords and this is pentacles. We have a lovely young fairy boy sitting on the pumpkin, waiting with patience. So some of them will be quite apparent what they are. Others are a bit of a stretch because the deck does tend to take a more positive slant on all of the cards. So here's your Three of Cups, your Two of Winters, your Two of Swords. So we have this young fairy boy in between these two musical instruments. Is indecision is holding you back. So yeah, so it could be a nice segue into the tarot for somebody who's not quite sure if it's something that they want to work with. Here's an example of a major. So the majors have these little tabs and they're numbered in this way. instead of Roman numerals. And again, you have a full description for each of the majors. Yeah, so I just thought I would stick that one in there in case you like collage art and you were looking for a deck for somebody, you know, that had more information on each of the cards. This collage deck, independently published by Lisa McLoughlin in 2018, is called the Textured Tarot, and it is in my basket most of the time. I find this quite a versatile deck. Use it with lots of different kinds of clients. Again, multimedia collage art. Very cleverly done. Humphrey Bogart, kind of king of pentacles. And all of these cards that I have shown you have this really soft palette. The next few that we're going to look at, not so much, but the ones so far have. Oh. This deck, I know I don't riffle shuffle it, but I find this deck quite cardboardy, and I have several damaged cards. Stunning, stunning Four of Swords, as is the Queen of Pentacles. So lots of different layers in these collages, and really, really well done. I find having the crystal glasses on this one kind of unusual, but it is collage art. And so I think with the whole idea of collage art is to really appreciate all the different media that is being used in each of the layers, each of the cards. I forget whose deck it was. I think I reviewed it, or I showed it recently. They were talking about all the different layers in a collage deck, and it was something like 400 layers. I forget whose deck it was. But if you really take a moment to look at all the details in these cards, you can see that a lot goes into building a collage deck. So yeah, so that's the Textured by Lisa McLoughlin from the UK. This is the Herbcrafters Tarot, US Games 2019, created by Joanna, Powell, Cuthbert, and Latisha Guthrie. Not a collage deck, so to speak, like the other ones that we have looked at, but has that feel of a collage deck, and so that's why I've decided to include it in this video. And these card backs feel very nostalgic to me. They remind me of a game I played at birthday parties when I was a child. So each of these scenes was created with the intention of the energy, the medicine of each of the cards, printed and then colored with Prismacolor pencils by Joanna. And so you have this effect of a piece of art as opposed to a photograph. And I think they've done a much better job in this deck than in the Gaian in creating a piece of art as opposed to a photorealistic image. Hard for me to express that exactly, but here's an example. So the Curandera of Earth looks like a painting. It looks like a beautiful drawing that was done just as a piece of art. But the scene was actually created with the intention of being the King of Earth. Yeah, and the mandala for the World card is just beautiful. Sweet Pachamama. In the description, it says that the scene was created and then photographed, but to me, it looks like the butterfly's been added later. So it may be another layer that was added or not. But you can just see the love and energy and time that was put into creating each of these scenes. And whether bits and pieces were added later is neither here nor there, but I think it fits beautifully into this collection of collage decks. And here's another one that looks like a painting as opposed to a photograph. I love the garlic, the way and the thing I've been thinking about with this deck is how am I going to use this deck and use this deck to its maximum potential? And I think somehow with workshopping the cards individually myself, I'm going to be able to work more intimately with the deck, and it'll find its way, find its path. But so far, I have not been using this deck a lot. But I think the key will come in workshopping and actually perhaps recreating or studying each of the cards individually for the plant medicine and for the craft. Yeah. So that's the Herbcrafters Tarot. Here is another deck that kind of defies categories, but I've decided to include it in my collage collection. This is the Housewives Tarot by Paul Kemple and Jude Buffum. Came out in 2004. And it has a very wry sense of humor. It definitely is a period piece and will appeal to a particular audience. Kind of wish I had this deck when my mother was still around and I could have shared it with some of her women's groups. I think it would have been very, very well received. Devil's food cake for the devil. And then we have all the other vices floating around the devil. I think it's really well done. Some of the cards take a little bit of time to look at the details and kind of see what's going on. If you're familiar with the Zombie Tarot, it's the same creators as the Zombie Tarot. And a lot of these packages and the brand names will have changed, but the packages will be familiar to people definitely of this generation. They've done a really, really good job in creating an authentic period piece, and I love the recipe box that the cards come in. And I think these collages are really well put together. I like how the heads, it almost looks like he's a bobblehead. The whole thing is just, it's really, really fun. But at the same time, it's very much a shadow deck, and you have an opportunity to bring in lots of deep conversations if that's a place that you want to go to. Here's the Hierophant, the radio. And then you have James Dean, or somebody like James Dean, as the Knight of Swords. And here's your mayonnaise. Salmonella. This is the second edition of the Alice Tarot by Bubba Studios. Another incredible collage deck, labor of love. I don't believe until you actually have one of these Bubba Studios decks in your hands can you understand the complexity of the creation of these decks. So first of all, kudos to the wardrobe department. Each of the characters in these cards, their costumes were built life-size. So they were filmed with actual humans with full-size costumes. So just that fact in itself gives this deck a whole other, puts it in a whole other league. The backgrounds, the foregrounds, the details over the borders and the titles at the bottom are just really, it's really incredible. I don't really think anything I can say is going to do justice to the amount of love and energy put into this deck. I find that the Alice stories are beautiful metaphors for the tarot. And this particular Alice deck has done a really good job with selecting the scenes to match the energy of each of the cards based on the Rider-Waite-Smith system. And Karen Mahony in the extended guidebook at the back, she goes through the Alice story the Alice stories in order, and then explains why each of the scenes was chosen for each of the cards. And I also did that myself with Dame Darcy's Alice deck. It's a really kind of cool exercise to go through if you know the stories well. And then also what you could do is, if you have multiple Alice decks, which is not what this video is about at all. This video is about collage decks. This one is just an incredible piece of art, is to put the multiple Alice decks together by scene and just look at the different choices that are made of different aspects of the Alice stories in relationship to the meaning of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith positions for the cards. So yeah, this is the Bubba Studios Alice. And the last deck that we're going to look at in this collage collection is the Crow Tarot. And I think it was MJ herself. This is the 2019 US Games version of MJ Cullinane's Crow Tarot. It was she in one of her guidebooks, I have the extended version as well too, that described the 400 layers that are included in many of these images. And so not only do we have a photo perhaps in the background of New York, but we have fabric layers, we have paint layers, we have three-dimensional object layers, and layer after layer after layer. And so it's really worthwhile when you have a collage deck to spend some time not necessarily meditating, but really kind of blurring your vision and focusing on all of the details that we don't necessarily catch in a glance. I've really gained a new appreciation for the level of complexity and care and creativity that goes into building a collage deck. I think there's a bit of I don't want to say snobbery around original art versus, or original paintings versus a collage deck. I don't think that one is any more complex or better or detailed than another. I think there are some in both of those categories that are done really, really well and as equally complex and as equally deserving of a tremendous amount of appreciation and credit. And I think this is one of those decks. There's something about the crow. This hermit card is just stunning. This deck for me reads straight forward. It's a great deck for me to pull out for business readings. And any of the cards where there has been controversy or question have either been addressed in the mini guidebook or the large guidebook. So yeah, just really appreciate it also when a creator deals with all of the questions that arise from the creator's choices in certain cards. Beautiful, beautiful Ace of Wands. And also mirrored on the spire, the steeple in the building in the background. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining me here today. Would you please let me know what your favorite collage deck is and whether that is a genre that you lean towards or whether you prefer original paintings or whatever you want to call them. I just thought we could open up that discussion because I know I've heard several video makers, YouTubers talk about, well, I don't have too many collage decks in my collection. I don't tend to lean towards collage decks, but I think there's something really kind of special that needs to be appreciated and brought out. And I think we need to commend all of the creators whose decks I've shown here today. So thank you. Thanks a lot for joining me. Stay well and namaste.